Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Inept General coming to you with some more Total War Warhammer 2 news. And today we have had the starting positions revealed to us of the new Legendary Lords in the upcoming DLC, the Hunter and the Beast, due to be released on the 11th of September. So we're going to take a look at both Lords. We also got a bit of details about how they'll play, both in campaign and in battle. So let's delve in, shall we? And we are going to start with the new Empire Legendary Lord, Marcus Wulfhart, the Hunts Marshal of the Empire, sent by Karl Franz across to the New World. And if you'd like to know a little bit more about Marcus's lore, I'm not going to delve into it here, but I have made a separate video for that. If you'd like to check that out, that'll be popping up in the top right hand corner, or you'll find a link in the description below. But without further ado, let's kick on and let's have a look at some of Marcus's traits. We got a look at his sigil, which is kind of cool. All the arrows going into the eye of a Cygor. Very on point for him, very on brand, as they say. Moving on, we got to look at some of his faction effects, lord effects, mount, and unique items. For his faction effects, let's start with them. We knew from the news released yesterday that he'd have a limited roster based on how well he does and how well he expands, which opens up his roster as the Emperor is more and more chuffed with him. So that should be a bit of fun to play with, but it does say limited roster on his faction effects. Reinforcements from the Empire, which we just touched on. When he takes more land or does more missions for the Emperor, he's allowed to get better units sent across from the Empire. Hostile actions, again, a mechanic we knew about yesterday as well, but the idea that every action you take against the lizard men upsets them, and eventually that will spawn armies to come and attack you, and you just have to survive the onslaught. Recruit rank +3 for Huntsman Generals, that's interesting. So the more generic version of Marcus himself, you'll be able to recruit them a little bit better. And diplomatic relations with the lizard men start at -40. So if you had any plans on making peace with the lizard men, that is not likely to happen as long as Marcus is your legendary lord at the beginning of a campaign. In terms of his mount, he's not going to have any mounted options. He's always going to be on foot while he's firing at his enemies. The Lord effects, we knew he'd have some good ambush defense, but we didn't know how much it would be. Today we're learning that that is 50%, which is actually very good, and a 50% ambush success chance, also fantastic, with a -50% upkeep for archers and huntsman units as his Lord effect. So even if you confederated with him, these are the effects you'd get just by having him as a general. And of course his unique item, the Amber Bow, which we're not exactly sure what that does yet, but I'm sure we'll find out in the coming days. Moving on from these details, we were also given some details on the unique skills he's going to have. So let's take a look at those. When he does recruit, although he will have a limited roster in the campaign, it looks like there'll be more experience. So I guess the idea is the Emperor is not sending him fresh troops, he's sending him some more experienced troops, so he gets that fantastic buff. He is impervious to attack, so just make him a bit hardier, a bit more survivable for a ranged unit with +10 melee defense, 10% missile resistance. Master Survivalist, +5 campaign movement, +10 line of sight, and +10 casualty replenishment rate, which is great. Irregular Elite, again giving him cost savings on the Huntsman and the Archers, and +8 melee for Huntsman, which is pretty handy, and +10 damage for Huntsman and Archer units in terms of their missile attacks. So that's pretty good. Sleight of hand, double shot ammunition, extra projectile for Huntsman units, Lord's Army. That is actually kind of incredible that the Huntsman, that's a big one that I don't think we knew about yesterday, where the Huntsman will fire 2 shots for every one, which could be potentially devastating if you get enough Huntsmen in your army. Very impressive little buff he gives to them there, and an 8% reload reduction, so that's pretty good. Telescopic aim, +12% range. I'm not sure if that's just for him or all units, and it enables sundering attacks. I'm not sure on that one, actually. We'll have to wait and see for a little bit of clarification. I'm going to guess at this stage that that's for him, but I may well be wrong. Grand Hunts Marshal, Vanguard Deployment, and Immune to Psychology. Kind of very true, at least the Immune to Psychology part of his old rules on the tabletop. So that's about it as far as his skills and his faction traits are concerned. So let's move on and have a look at his starting positions. So they're actually both fairly similar. So on the Vortex campaign, we see him starting on the northern tip of the southern continent of the New World. So just kind of up there near the Scorpion Coast, really in amongst it among the Lizard Men. He can maybe hope to forge alliances with some of the other factions. Silostra Diaphin somewhere around there as well, if I remember correctly. And the Vampire Coast is not too far away. So a good variety of potential enemies you'll be facing off against in the Wulfhart campaign. And in the Mortal Empires campaign, as we can see, a very similar starting position, again surrounded by much of the same. I believe this city is Tlenclan, if that's right, either on the Vortex. It's around that area, if I remember correctly. So pretty good variety he'll be facing off against. There's even dwarves in the mountains behind him. You've got Vampire Coast on two sides. You've got a lot of lizard men. You might have some elves giving you some trouble as well. Pretty good varied starting position for him there. Now, there's a couple of images we got released today that we didn't see yesterday, and I thought I'd just go through those with you as well. And the first one of those shows the Temple of Tlenclan, where his potential starting position will be, his buildings that he has available there. So starting with the harbor and one of the units to recruit troops. And at the top of this image, we can see the Emperor's Mandate, I believe that will be, and the levels you have to reach to start climbing up that, eventually forcing a final confrontation with Nakai. So that is pretty interesting up there. So we got our first view of what that might look like in the campaign for Marcus. And secondly, we got a look at what some of his starting units might be. It looks like Spearmen with shields, 2 units of swordsmen. I believe that's probably an archer unit, a huntsman unit, and the war wagon, unless I'm mistaken there. That's what that looks like those units are going to be as far as his starting position is concerned. And that's about all the new information we have for Marcus Wulfhart. Let's move across to the other side of this conflict and look at Nakai the Wanderer's traits and faction effects as well, shall we? So we got a look at Nakai's sigil. We know he will be the spirit of the jungle in terms of his faction name. Let's move on and have a look at some of his faction effects. Now, we know that Nakai is going to be a bit unusual as far as the Lizardmen are concerned in that he will have a horde faction, meaning he won't have any regular settlements of his own and will just wander the world doing good for the Lizardmen. Very true to lore, actually, if I'm going to be honest. Now, he can use global recruitment for his other hordes, so ones that have different generals apart from him, but he's the only army that can unlock new units. So that's an interesting aspect in the way that he plays, so we know about that. Kai's vassals, you start with a vassal company, and they can occupy settlements once you've conquered them, so you can just give them away to your vassal, and you do start with one anyway. And it looks like any Kroxigor ancients he recruits will have +3 rank, which is pretty handy to have as well. Now, the Kroxigor ancients are what I imagine the generic general type that will be coming along in this DLC pack will be. So they, like Marcus Wulfhart, will just boost his kind of generic generals that are not too dissimilar to him. The Lord effects are melee defense +5 for Kroxigors and Sacred Kroxigors, which is pretty good. Recruitment cost -10 for Kroxigors and Sacred Kroxigors. Those are his Lord effects, so he'll have them. Now, I'm not sure about Confederating and whether that would even be possible with the other Lizardmen factions. Because he is a Horde faction, I don't know if you'd be able to confederate with him. It's an interesting aspect. I'm sure they'll answer that some point down the road if they haven't already in the forums or something, but something I'm a little bit curious about. He, of course, doesn't need a mount because he's massive anyway. He has a couple of unique items, golden tributes and the Ogham Shard. Now, I'm not sure what the Ogham Shard is off the top of my head, but the golden tributes are the idea that when Nakai wanders around, then he does good deeds. Skinks often bring him gold and golden armor to be like, hey, thank you for helping out in this battle, Nakai. You're the best. And he sort of wanders off into the wilderness yet again. So that's what that making reference to. In terms of the lore for Nakai, I said, as with Marcus, I'm not going to delve too deep into it now. I am, in fact, probably going to release a video later today or tomorrow covering that, so keep an eye out for that. And if you're watching this after the fact, a link should be popping up in the top right-hand corner for you now, or there'll be a link in the description below. Moving on from these aspects, let's have a look at some of his unique skills. And as far as his unique skills are concerned, Legendary Warrior, Leadership Aura of plus 20%, so a pretty big Leadership Aura for him, and plus 5 Leadership effect on them as well, so bigger and wider. Demon Crusher, plus 10 charge bonus, plus 10 weapon strength, pretty good. Cold-blooded reflexes, attacks cause discourage, reducing the leadership, and he has terror, so he'll make units run away pretty promptly because he is such a terrifyingly large creature. First spawnings, the idea that he is a very ancient Kroxigor, speed plus 10, and he has the frenzy ability, which is pretty good, and he gives that to all Kroxigors and sacred Kroxigors in his army. Adornments, casualty replenishment rate plus 5, horde growth plus 3, just a useful one for any horde faction, and the Sacred Wanderer, just making him unbreakable, which is actually hugely useful as well. So those are his skills. Let's move on to his starting position, and on the Vortex campaign, we can see he starts in, I think, the Creeping Jungle, maybe a little bit more towards the other way. Not too far away from Marcus Wulfhart himself, so they could clash quite early doors, these two, if you really wanted to have your campaign go that way. But you're exposed to a lot of stuff around this area. There's some dwarves to maybe have a scrap with. There's other lizard men around who you can help out. There's the Vampire Coast you can pick on. There's Silostra Diathin to the north. But a little bit more trapped in, not as much access to sea. You really have to fight your way to the coast, or you can decide to head down and maybe give Clan Pestilence and the Dark Elves a bit of a fight as well. So nothing's too far away from you, but it's kind of bang in the middle of Lustria there. So, you know, a lot of options for directions to head in as a Horde faction. Moving on from the Vortex campaign, let's have a look at the Mortal Empires campaign. And a lot of people saw this coming a little while ago, but there is Albion. And he's starting in Albion because he did, at some point in the lore, help Mazdamundi set up a Lizardman city in Albion. So it's a good starting place for him, and it allows him to really dig into the Norscans, fight some Dark Elves, maybe go down to Bretonia for a bit of a scrap as well, and even the High Elves aren't too far away. So really a lot of options there by being on Albion, and they've done some work with the Albion landmass in the Mortal Empires campaign, according to some of the updates we'll be getting with the free DLC. If you're not sure what we're getting at this stage, do check the top right hand corner now. I've done a video on what we're getting for the free DLC when this pack comes out, but Albion being reworked is one of those things. So moving on from the starting positions, let's take a look at a couple of new screenshots we have, and we're looking at some of his starting units. Now we can see the Saurus Warriors with spears, just Saurus Warriors, some Skinks with javelins, and I think these have to be the Sacred Kroxigors, and he has a unit of Kroxigors as well. So those will be his starting units, and at the top you can see what he has to do for some of his campaign. I believe in the center of the top bar, that's a tribute you paid to one of the old ones. I believe there's a screenshot coming up next where I'll delve into that a little bit more. But to the right of them, you see these 4 faces, and the idea is that you have to hunt down and kill each one of these special characters to then get Wulfric to come out and face you in the grand finale of at least the Vortex campaign when you are playing as Nakai the Wanderer. Now, moving on to that screenshot I was alluding to earlier, here you can see because a settlement has been captured, you get an opportunity to gift something. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm going to go out on a bit of a ledge and say I think this is the final settlement captured when you're taking over a region, And so I'm guessing this is maybe you being allowed to dedicate one of your cities to being a temple city to one of the old ones, which helps you gain favor in their eyes and allows you access to a particular resource. And that's how Nakai gets access to things like blessed units, and he's able to recruit higher ranked generals as well when he uses that. Now, alternatively, what this might be is when he's taken the settlement here, is giving it away to one of his vassals, but I don't think he'd have that many vassals, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So I'm thinking it's for the dedicated temple to the old ones, and it's sort of matching the colors up top, and those are how you gain favor with them and gain the resource by which you get the blessed units and you get higher ranked generals. So that's about it for Nakai. Can't wait to get my hands on both these guys, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more news in the days to come. As always, guys, a huge thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you all on the next one. Alright guys, bye.